Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm flying United Airlines Boeing 777-200ER from San Francisco to Taipei. This isn't just any 777 flight, we've actually flown on the exact same route and aircraft type back in 2014, almost 11 years ago. Over the past few years, United has been quietly giving its older wide-body fleet a second life, refurbishing its internationally configured 777s to bring them up to modern standards. This refresh is all a part of United's broader corporate strategy dubbed Next. Instead of flying around with outdated interiors, they're actually remodeling these planes with new cabins, new seats, and a much more contemporary feel to anchor their long-haul trans-Pacific route tree out of San Francisco. So today, we're going to find out what this actually means in practice and see how this refurbished 777 holds up on a nearly 13.5-hour flight across the Pacific to Taipei, Taiwan. We're starting today's journey at the observation deck at the end of the International G Concourse. This is an avid location usually for plane spotting during the day. However, there seems to be not too many planes out of the concourse at this hour. So we actually head straight back to our boarding gate, G1, right in time for our boarding to commence and to catch a glimpse of our aircraft, November 799 Uniform Alpha, a 27-year-old 777-200 delivered to United in May 1998. I'm seated in seat 38A tonight. It's a row of just 2 seats near the back of the first of 2 economy sections on board this premium dense configuration. Each seat is equipped with universal power, USB-A, and a 9-inch seatback monitor. Legroom is quite decent, and I presume there might be a bit more than 31 inches due to the modern, sleek design of the seat. I'm actually a big fan of booking United's paired economy seats whenever I get the chance to fly a 10 abreast 777. Compared to my return flight, however, as seen in this footage, on board United's flagship 777-300, it does seem that the older version of the Rockwell Collins Aspire seats have a bit more legroom to give. Back to the flight tonight, you'll actually find a thin blanket and a neck pillow style pillow with a single-use scratchy cover, standard across most if not all United international flights. Let's talk about the seat in general here. Depending on the long-haul aircraft type or progress of cabin retrofit, you're bound to receive a different experience when flying United. United's internationally configured 777-200s sports the Collins Aerospace Aspire seats, a very sleek-looking economy class seat that doesn't feature a whole lot of back padding or seat cushion in my opinion. More on this matter at the end of the video. I personally much prefer the older Collins Aerospace Pinnacle setup, which you can see during the boarding of my return flight here, providing much more back support and give in terms of seat cushion.
On board, we should be pushing up shortly here. Once we're pushed back, we'll start getting this up taxi to runway 28 left. Be about a 20-minute taxi. Once we get aboard, 13 hours and 26 minutes in Taipei.
We finally push back and make our way out of the international G gates about 20 minutes late from our original departure time. From my experience, the taxi from this side of the concourse to the departure runway 28L is a nightmare to complete. I counted almost 50 minutes from pushback to departure, which is pretty much on par and the equivalent of any Chicago O'Hare taxi time in my book. It really feels like every time I depart or arrive at San Francisco, there's always some kind of ground handling bottleneck involved that adds an extra layer of waiting to the experience. You get what you get. So we had a pretty smooth takeoff overall as we hear the roar of the Pratt & Whitney 4000 engine on the 777-200ER variant. It's no GE90, but I would say it's up there in terms of sound effects for the most part. Dinner service followed immediately after we hit cruise, for which I was served possibly the worst economy class meal I've encountered in my days of flying: pineapple teriyaki beef. Now, the taste of this can be best described as that of overcooked, stale beef with an overly sweet and tangy flavor of pineapple. I'd say not being able to finish this meal is an understatement in itself, especially when you compare the quality of catering out of Taipei during my return flight. And so following that monstrosity of a dinner service, we explore the lavatories here on this 777-200ER. We have 5 lavatories in total, 3 in the middle section and 2 flanking the wings of this aft economy section. I'm standing in the handicap-friendly and spacious middlemost lavatory, which is really decent in size and maintained quite well overall by the cabin crew throughout flight. Pretty good job, United. Before we get some shut-eye here, let's take a quick look at the dimmed cabin of United's older, internationally configured 777-200ER. Notice the non-installation of mood lighting on this aircraft, perhaps a reminder of earlier long-haul interior philosophy, where lighting is strictly functional rather than ambient. However, with a large order of new Boeing 787s on the way, even retrofitted cabins like this one are slowly being phased out of United's long-haul network. Before settling in, let's briefly check out United's IFE system on this aircraft. The system here runs United's familiar on-demand software with a solid mix of recent movies, full TV seasons, and in-flight tracking. We've covered this IFE selection before, and it remains largely consistent across United's fleet, including the 737 MAX we flew earlier to San Francisco. So there's no real surprises, just a really reliable and familiar experience overall. Mid-flight, United served a balsamic chicken, cheese, and arugula sandwich, and honestly, this was one of the highlights of the catering. Well seasoned, nicely balanced, and far better than I expected for a mid-flight meal. Throughout the flight, cans of soda and leftover cheesecake brownies were available in the galley for self-serve and consumption. Soon after, we reached our breakfast service before landing. United offered pancakes with maple butter and a berry compote, with the alternative being scrambled eggs and sausage. I went with the pancakes, and they tasted quite good, though they weren't especially filling. That said, they were paired with fresh fruit and a pre-packaged croissant, which helped round out the meal and made it feel a bit more complete. We finally see the West Taiwanese shoreline as we descend into Taoyuan Airport. And fun fact, this SFO to Taipei route is widely regarded as the busiest international market out of San Francisco. It's served multiple times daily by carriers like United, EVA, and China Airlines, with newer entrants like Starlux also operating on this route once daily. As we come into land here, I want to wrap up my overall thoughts on this flight and United's long-haul product as a whole on their 777-200ER. I really applaud the airline for its refurbished hard product, modern cabin design, and reliable entertainment system, but the experience was ultimately let down by the soft product of its particular catering and overall meal quality, making for an only slightly above average flight. The Collins Aspire seat padding, the new ones especially, was really disappointing, feeling more like a park bench than a premium long-haul seat. Compared to other Asian carriers like EVA Air or China Airlines flying this route from San Francisco, it's clear that while United often comes in at a lower price point, you will ultimately get what you pay for and an overall average experience. Thank you for watching this video. If you made it this far, consider leaving a like and subscribing. We really appreciate your support for this channel, and until then, safe travels.